Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Super pumped to have you here. So today we're going to be talking about when is it time to switch out certain parts on your skateboard. So a lot of times you'll be skating and once you have your complete, you'll notice one thing at a time that needs to be changed, whether your wheels are getting caught up on every small bump, or your deck feels really soggy, or your trucks are grinding straight to the axle. So all those things are issues when it's time to change out parts on your skateboard. So we're gonna go through it. I'm gonna tell you there's certain points when you should start changing out the parts on your skateboard. So here's my skateboard right here. This is an 8.25 creature board. We've got mob grip tape on it, Bones STF. I think these are the V3 shape and 52 millimeters with tensor Maglite trucks and Ondelay Swiss bearings. So the most common thing to go out on your skateboard first will be the board itself, whether it be from cracking, chipping, or razor tail, or just feeling soggy. So things to look out for. If you're doing a lot of manuals, then your tail is going to go out a lot faster, and this is going to really limit your pop. So if you're at a street spot and you're doing a lot of manuals and you go to your local skate park and your board is just not feeling right, you're not popping as high, or you're ollieing up a ledge that you always ollie up and you're just not getting the height you need, then it's typically time for a new skateboard. Same thing is if you land down a gap and you hear your board crack but it's not completely broken, that is a sign that it is going to snap relatively soon. And I know a lot of people out there say skate it till you break it, but a lot of times I'm on this board and it will feel like it needs to be switched out, and it's kind of hindering my progression because it's messed up in some type of way, but the board is not quite broken. Then I'll look into switching it out. Plus, I do like to stop skating them right before they break so the board still stays intact. Anyway, so razor tail is one. Hearing the board crack does mean that it's probably going to break relatively soon, and also the soggy type of feeling. So if you're on your board and it had steep concave, you might notice that it sinks in a little bit throughout skating it, and that's because the wood is getting softer as you skate it, and that will do a few things. Again, it will limit your pop a lot, and also you will feel it flex more underneath you, and inevitably it will crack on some type of obstacle, whether it's a flip trick, a board slide, or something along the line. So when it gets that really soggy feeling, that's another time where you might want to start looking into getting a new skateboard. Moving on, we could talk about grip tape, but a lot of times the grip tape will last the length of the board. But if you are completely out of grip and the board's still in good shape, you can always change out your grip tape. You just take all your hardware out. I would use a blow dryer to heat up the glue underneath it, and then you can peel it off and re-grip it. But that's a little bit extra. Moving on to wheels. When is it time to get new wheels? So coning is something that happens when you skate a lot and you don't rotate your wheels, where the spots that hits the ground normally is going to get worn out a lot more than the other part of the wheel, making it a cone shape. And that's going to really kind of just destroy the wheel because you have less tread that's actually touching the ground, if that makes sense. Your wheel, it has a certain portion of the urethane that's actually on the ground, whether it be a patch wheel or a conical wheel. When it starts to cone, less of that wheel is touching the ground, which will make it more susceptible to getting locked into cracks. It's pretty much just think that it's a smaller wheel that's not actually smaller. Another time is if you're skating a lot of street and or just sandpapery ground, your wheels will wear down a lot quicker, and then a small crack can actually throw you off your board because your wheels have worn down. So if you skate in an area that has very terrible ground or a lot of cracks and you're skating a lot of street, I would really recommend going with Spitfire Formula 4 wheels or Bones STF wheels, because those wheels are meant to actually take all that without wearing down very quickly, but inevitably all wheels will wear down. Another thing is flat spots, and this is something that can actually happen to brand new wheels, where you just get a chunk ripped out of your wheel because you've been power sliding or you hit something wrong, or there's a lot of things that can cause it, or even just having a lemon on one of the wheels that made it just defective. So if they're smaller flat spots, you can actually ride them out, but if they are very big, then you will actually have to get new wheels because you are going to be seeing yourself losing a lot of speed, and it's very distracting hearing this helicopter noise coming from your wheels. So that's when you should look into changing your wheels. Moving on to trucks. Trucks are usually what lasts you the longest on your skateboard, and the brakes on trucks is somewhat rare, but the first thing that will usually break on your truck will be the base plate if you're going through a lot of impact. If you're a technical skater and you're doing a lot of grinds, a lot of slides, stuff like that, you will eventually wear through the axle of your truck and either be grinding straight to the kingpin or get straight to the axle, and that is going to eventually cause it to break. I do recommend you to just inspect your trucks after skating them, especially if you've been doing a lot of grinds, to see if there's any cracks in them. If there is any cracks, no big deal. It's probably not going to break right away, but that is when you should start looking into new trucks. The other thing is when it comes to bushings and pivot cups, and you can even see right here the pivot cup is starting to come out a little bit on this truck. That means that I've either destroyed the pivot cup inside of there, I've worn through it, and it's starting to come out the sides because, well, the pivot's actually kind of coming out because the metal's pushing down too hard on it. Pretty much that means it's time to change your pivot cup. You don't have to get brand new trucks, but when you see that start to happen, that's when you should start looking into it. Bushings is another thing because these are just rubber, so if they're in the sun, they can get sun damaged. And if you skate really loose trucks, you will start seeing them crack and start to fall apart. Don't have to change your trucks for that. Similar to the pivot cups, you can just buy new ones. I recommend going to your local skate shop and asking them what they have. If you like skating tight trucks, you can get bones, hard bushings. There's all different kinds of things you can get to fix that issue. Moving on to bearings. Bearings are a tricky one because if you buy more expensive bearings, let's say Andale Swiss or Bone Swiss or Bone Ceramics, you're really not going to have to change your bearings out for a very long time unless one blows out or really starts slowing down on you. But if it blows out, you can just replace that one bearing and keep skating all the others because they are 8 individual pieces. But if you do have a bearing slowed down on you and you've spent a lot of money on your bearings, you can just get a cleaning kit with citrus cleaner and some bone speed cream, and you can actually get them spinning just as good as they were new. So I would definitely look up a tutorial on YouTube how to do that. I might make one in the future on how I clean my bearings, but that's definitely worth looking into. But if you go with really cheap bearings, like $15, $10, just random bearings that you find on Amazon, and they start slowing down, there is a good chance that they'll have sealed on cages where you can't actually take them apart. And even if you do clean them out really well, they might not actually be that good. So if you are really into skateboarding and you want to not worry about bearings, I would recommend getting a nicer pair of bearings one time and then just get a cleaning kit and taking care of them over and over again. But if you do have a bearing blowout, that does typically indicate that your bearings, they are in need of change. But sometimes you could just change the one that blew out and you will be good to go. Other than that, we could talk about the hardware. Really the only time you need to switch this out is if it gets way too stripped and you can't get it on and off easier when you're changing trucks on boards, or same thing if you use Phillips or Allen. If you just cannot get them off anymore, you're using a wrench or just something to try to get them off, then it's time to look into new hardware. But similar to bearings, you can just change the really warped one and not worry about the rest if they're still coming off easily. And I guess we should probably talk about these on the sides, these truck nuts. So similar to your hardware, these will get worn down or stripped, but a lot of times before that happens, they'll just be smashed against the ground from landing primo or just landing a trick. They'll just kind of get destroyed. So you can see how these were red, but now they're silver. That's just from hitting the ground. And sometimes the geometry of this will just change to the point where you can't get a tool around it anymore, and you've got to try to find a wrench to get around it. At that point, you can change them out. If you do buy some bearings, a lot of kits actually come with spare hardware like this. The Andale Swiss that I put on, they did have these red bolts with them. But you can get these for cheap, and if you don't want to get them from a skate shop, you can go to Home Depot, find these, and pick them up for probably $1. So that's when you can change those out. But other than that, I think that covers when you should look into changing everything around your skateboard. But do keep in mind that this isn't going to happen all at once. If you're skating a lot, it will typically just be one thing, and most of the time it's just going to be your board, and your wheels, bearings, hardware, and trucks are going to be just fine for a good amount of time. I should mention one more thing that I forgot to mention during trucks. You can actually get a axle slip, but that's really not that common anymore. I've only had it happen one time since I've been skating, but that's where the board lands wrong, and typically on one of these axles, and it will push it through the other side where one of these wheels will get locked up. You kind of have to hammer it in place. And then I suppose you could actually just bend an axle or your hanger, but you'll notice when that happens. If you have hollows where you can see through them, if you can't see through it anymore, that typically means that you have bent your axle. But that doesn't happen all that often. But like I said, just inspect your trucks regularly for cracks or anything like that, and you will be good to go, because I know trucks are kind of a hassle once you get them broken in and you don't want to change them. So there's a lot of other options, like getting new pivot cups, getting new bearings, hammering your axle in place, instead of getting new trucks, if that makes sense. But anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was some good information for you. If you like this content, check out some of my other videos. If not, I will see you guys in the next video. Stay safe, keep skating. Peace.